Let's slow down here and appreciate the full dimension of what those pirate crews were attempting. When they rolled up on USS Cape St. George and USS Gonzalez that morning, they believed, with the fatal confidence of men who had never been wrong before, that they were approaching a commercial vessel, large, slow, crewed by merchant sailors with no training, no weapons, and strict instructions to comply. They were wrong in almost every measurable way. USS Cape St. George was a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser. It carried 122 vertical launch tubes, each capable of firing a weapon that could destroy an aircraft flying at supersonic speeds. Its Aegis combat system could simultaneously track and engage dozens of incoming targets at ranges stretching to 200 miles. It had radar arrays so sophisticated they could distinguish between a bird and a missile at altitude. USS Gonzalez was an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, the most widely produced warship in the U.S. fleet. 9,300 tons, armed with 90 vertical launch missile cells, a 5-inch naval gun, torpedoes, 2 helicopter platforms, and more electronics than most nations' entire militaries. But here's what makes the story even more extraordinary and even more applicable to the video's title. These ships were just the outer ring. When U.S. Navy aircraft carriers deploy, they never go alone. They travel as part of a carrier strike group, a formation so thoroughly layered in defensive capability that military analysts describe it as the most lethal and survivable weapon system ever assembled in the history of naval warfare. A standard carrier strike group includes the carrier itself, a nuclear-powered vessel the length of 3 football fields, displacing 100,000 tons, carrying 75 aircraft including FA-18 Super Hornets, EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets, E-2C Hawkeye airborne radar planes, and MH-60R Seahawk helicopters, armed with torpedoes, Hellfire missiles, and machine guns. Surrounding the carrier, at least 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, 1 Ticonderoga-class cruiser, 1 Los Angeles or Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine running silent beneath the surface, supply ships, and sometimes additional escort vessels from Allied navies. The outer perimeter of a deployed carrier strike group is patrolled by aircraft that can see you from 300 miles away. The middle ring is patrolled by ships that can destroy you at 50 miles. The inner ring is patrolled by the Phalanx CIWS, close-in weapon system, a radar-guided, fully automatic 20mm Gatling gun that fires 4,500 rounds per minute and can reduce a small boat to wreckage in under 2 seconds. And beneath all of it, the silent submarine that you never see, never hear, and never have any idea is even there. Pirate skiff approaching a U.S. aircraft carrier strike group is not bringing a knife to a gunfight. It is bringing a butter knife to a situation where the other side has a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, 60 armed jets, and a submarine, capable of sinking it 3 times before it even knows it's under attack. The 2006 incident does not end Somali piracy, not by a long shot. If anything, the golden age is still coming. 3 years later, on April 8, 2009, Somali piracy achieves its most dramatic and internationally visible moment. 4 pirates, armed with AK-47s, the youngest just 15 years old, board the MV Marsk, Alabama, a U.S.-flagged container ship carrying 17,000 metric tons of cargo, including 5,000 tons of food aid bound for Somalia, Uganda, and Kenya. This time, the target is what the pirates expected it to be: a cargo ship, an unarmed crew. But the crew fights back in ways the pirates don't anticipate. Chief Engineer Mike Perry, below decks in the darkened engine room, tracks the pirate ringleader, Abduwali Muse, through the black corridors of the ship, and tackles him, taking him prisoner with a knife. The standoff degrades. Muse is eventually exchanged, and then the pirates don't honor the deal. They flee in a covered lifeboat, taking Captain Richard Phillips as their hostage. 28 feet of fiberglass, 4 pirates, and 1 American sea captain bobbing in the Indian Ocean. The guided missile destroyer USS Bainbridge responds immediately. Then USS Halliburton. Then USS Boxer, an amphibious assault ship. From the air, a P-3C Orion surveillance aircraft circles. A Scan Eagle drone maps every movement on the lifeboat's deck. For 4 days, negotiations run. FBI hostage negotiators work the radios. The pirates demand money. The clock ticks. On the evening of April 11th, a pirate points a rifle at Captain Phillips' back. Commander Frank Castellano, commanding officer of USS Bainbridge, receives authorization from higher command. He determines that Richard Phillips' life is in immediate danger. The call goes to SEAL Team 6, Red Squadron, the most elite maritime hostage rescue unit on Earth. 3 snipers take position on the fantail of USS Bainbridge, which is now towing the lifeboat in moderate swells. They are shooting from one moving vessel to a smaller moving vessel at a distance of roughly 100 feet. The targets are heads, human heads, visible only intermittently through small porthole windows and hatches. On Sunday, April 12, 2009, Easter Sunday, all 3 pirates simultaneously expose their positions. 3 snipers fire 3 shots. 3 pirates die. Captain Richard Phillips steps out of the lifeboat and onto the deck of USS Bainbridge, uninjured. The entire world watches, and Somali pirates for the first time begin to understand something they had not fully grasped before. The U.S. Navy is not just waiting patiently, it is hunting. The response to Somali piracy ultimately came not from a single dramatic engagement, but from the sustained, coordinated deployment of the most powerful navies in the world. NATO launched Operation Ocean Shield in 2009. Warships from 20-plus nations patrolling the Gulf of Aden and the Western Indian Ocean. The European Union launched Operation Atalanta, the first naval operation in EU history, specifically to escort World Food Programme ships delivering aid to Somalia, the same country that was producing the pirates attacking them. At its peak, over 30 warships from more than 20 nations were actively patrolling piracy waters. Helicopters flew round-the-clock surveillance. Submarines shadowed pirate mother vessels. Navy SEALs, Royal Marines, and French commandos rehearsed takedown scenarios constantly. The shipping industry also adapted. Vessels began traveling through the Gulf of Aden in organized convoys, with military escort. Best management practices, BMP, were published and updated. Razor wire along hulls, fire hoses mounted to repel boarding attempts, armed security teams increasingly authorized on merchant ships, citadels, reinforced rooms within the ship where crews could lock themselves and communicate with naval authorities. The statistics tell the story of what happened next. In 2011, the peak year, there were 237 Somali pirate attacks and 28 successful hijackings. By 2012, successful hijackings had dropped to 14. By 2014, to 4. By 2016, NATO formally ended Operation Ocean Shield, declaring victory. 0 successful hijackings in 4 consecutive years. The ransom economy that had generated $80 million a year in 2008 had been broken. Not completely. Piracy has resurged in isolated incidents since. But the dominant model, the audacious high seas corporate empire of Somali maritime crime, was defeated. What actually won the battle was a combination of factors. Naval presence deterred attacks before they began. Hardened merchant ships reduced successful boardings. Improved legal frameworks allowed prosecutions. And critically, every time a pirate boat approached a naval vessel and discovered its mistake, the lesson rippled through the criminal network. Word got back to Harridir and Puntland and Isle. Some of those ships fight back. Some of those ships don't just fight back. They are the USS Gonzalez. They are the USS Cape St. George. They are guided missile destroyers and cruisers with SEAL teams on standby, and Seahawk helicopters ready to launch. And beyond them, always beyond them, lies the carrier strike group, the nuclear aircraft carrier, the 60 fighters, the silent submarine. The 2006 attack was not just the first pirate attack on a U.S. Navy warship in the modern era. It was also, in a very real sense, the last successful one, because the pirates who came after would either choose different targets, or they would make the same mistake as those 12 men in the Indian Ocean at dawn on March 18, 2006, and they would find the same answer waiting for them. There is something profoundly human in this story, on both sides of it. On one side, young men from a broken country, living in a broken system, reaching for the only form of power available to them. Most Somali pirates were not monsters. They were teenagers. Some were former fishermen whose livelihood had been stolen by foreign trawlers plundering unguarded waters. Some were recruited by financiers who promised them more money than their fathers had ever seen. Some were barely old enough to drive. On the other side, the full industrial might of the most powerful military the world has ever produced. Ships that cost $1 billion. Technology refined over decades of warfare. Sailors and SEALs and commanders who trained for years for exactly these moments. And who, when the moment came, responded with devastating precision and zero casualties. On their side, the asymmetry is almost too large to comprehend. A 30-foot wooden skiff with a 55-gallon fuel drum against a 600-foot nuclear aircraft carrier, an AK-47 and a ladder, against the Phalanx CIWS, the SM-2 missile, the MH-60R Seahawk, and SEAL Team 6. Before dawn breaks over the Indian Ocean, the water is black and endless. A small diesel-powered skiff cuts through the swells. 3 boats in total, running hard toward a silhouette on the horizon. The men on board are young. Most are teenagers. They are armed with AK-47s and rocket-propelled grenades. They have done this before. The silhouette ahead is large, slow-moving, they believe. A cargo ship, an easy target. What they don't know, what they cannot see in the darkness, is that the vessel they are closing on bristles with radar, fire control systems, .50 caliber machine guns, and 330 United States Navy sailors trained for precisely this moment. They are not approaching a merchant ship. They are approaching a guided missile cruiser of the United States Navy. And in approximately 4 minutes, they will know the difference. To understand how a group of pirates made the most catastrophic navigational error of their lives, you first need to understand the world that created them. The year is 2006. Somalia has been without a functioning central government since 1991. 15 years of civil war have stripped the country of nearly every institution. Its army, its courts, its navy, its coast guard. What remains is warlordism, poverty, and a coastline stretching nearly 3,300 kilometers, the longest in continental Africa, that nobody is protecting. Into that vacuum, foreign fishing fleets pour in. Dozens of international trawlers, operating illegally, without licenses, beyond any legal authority, begin stripping Somali waters bare. Local fishermen, who depend on those waters for survival, watch their livelihoods vanish. Some of them do what desperate people throughout history have always done. They fight back. At first, it is crude. A fishing boat, some guns, a demand for payment. You are in our waters. Pay us. Most foreign crews pay. Word spreads. By the early 2000s, the payment model has transformed into something far more sophisticated and far more dangerous. A piracy economy is born. Pirate leaders, called financiers, fund operations in exchange for a percentage of the ransom. Attack teams receive bonuses for successful hijackings. A cook aboard a hijacked ship earns a salary. The pirates even develop a stock market of sorts in the town of Haradair. Local investors buy shares in hijacking operations and receive dividends when ransoms are paid. It is, by any measure, a criminal enterprise of remarkable organization, and for several years it works extraordinarily well. In 2008 alone, Somali pirates launched 111 attacks, successfully hijacking 42 ships and collecting an estimated $80 million in ransoms. Their weapons are simple: ladders, AK-47s, RPG-7 rocket launchers, and small, fast motorized skiffs. Their tactics are effective: approach fast, board fast, get the crew below, sail to Somalia, wait for the money. Their business model has one critical assumption built into every mission: the target does not fight back. Cargo crews are told by their shipping companies to comply. Insurance covers the ransom. Resistance gets people killed. The pirates know this. They rely on it. But on the morning of March 18, 2006, that assumption is about to cost them everything. In the months before the incident, the United States Navy has been operating aggressively in the waters off the Horn of Africa. The reason is not just piracy. In the post-9/11 world, the entire maritime corridor from the Red Sea through the Gulf of Aden and into the Indian Ocean is a theater of concern. Terrorists, weapons, smugglers, and now pirates all prowl these waters. Enter Combined Task Force 150, a multinational coalition of warships authorized under United Nations Security Council resolution to patrol and interdict threats across more than 2 million square miles of ocean, spanning the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, Gulf of Oman, and the waters off East Africa. The task force includes ships from the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Pakistan, and more than a dozen other nations. Its American warships carry the full suite of 21st-century naval firepower: SM-2 surface-to-air missiles, Tomahawk cruise missiles, Phalanx close-in weapon systems capable of firing 4,500 rounds per minute, and Mark 45 naval guns. They operate SH-60 Seahawk helicopters with thermal imaging. They have radar that can track objects at 200 miles. They are, in every measurable military sense, the opposite of a cargo ship. 2 of these warships are operating in particularly active waters in early March 2006. The guided missile cruiser USS Cape St. George, hull number CG-71, and the guided missile destroyer USS Gonzalez, hull number DDG-66. Both vessels are Ticonderoga and Arleigh Burke-class ships, respectively, the most capable surface combatants in the world. They are not armed. They are a weapons platform so sophisticated it would require another documentary to fully explain. And they are sitting, right now, in some of the most pirate-infested waters on the planet, doing what they were sent there to do: hunt. The pirates don't know any of this. Or perhaps they don't care. Or perhaps, in the darkness and the distance, they simply cannot see what they are approaching clearly enough. Let the record show. They will see it clearly enough very soon. It is the early morning hours of March 18, 2006. Somewhere off the Somali coast, approximately 25 nautical miles from land, a diesel-powered skiff is moving through the water. It is a classic pirate configuration: one large mother vessel, towing 2 smaller, faster, gasoline-powered attack skiffs behind it. The mother vessel carries the fuel, the ladders, the heavy weapons. The attack skiffs are the strike tools: small, lightweight, capable of cutting through the water at frightening speed. USS Gonzalez sees it first. The destroyer's radar operators pick up the profile, the characteristic pattern of a diesel, boat-towing smaller craft, operating in the dark at an unusual hour in known piracy waters. They recognize the signature immediately. This is not a fishing vessel running its nets. This is a pirate configuration on active patrol, USS Gonzalez, under the command of Captain James Yohei, begins trailing the suspect vessel. Quietly, without lights, at distance. Meanwhile, a radio call goes out to USS Cape St. George, roughly 40 miles away, under the command of Captain Robert Randall Jr., to begin closing. For hours, the two warships stalk the pirate flotilla in the dark, building situational awareness, watching, waiting. It is, in military terms, a patient, professional intelligence-gathering operation. The bridge crews are watching their radar screens. The combat information centers are logging movements. The boarding teams are being quietly assembled and briefed. The pirates, for their part, are almost certainly not monitoring for military radar returns. They are looking forward, scanning the horizon for the big dark shape of a cargo ship that will make them rich. Sunrise approaches. Gonzalez and Cape St. George each deploy two rigid-hull inflatable boats, RHIBs, with specially trained visit, board, search, and seizure teams. These are not ordinary sailors sent to investigate a fishing violation. These are trained naval personnel, armed and prepared for exactly this kind of encounter. The boarding teams move toward the pirate skiffs. Here, in the darkness and the tension of pre-dawn, something goes wrong. Before the boarding teams can properly identify themselves or establish legal authority, the pirates open fire. It happens fast. The pirate skiffs, perhaps panicking at the sudden appearance of inflatable boats, emerging from the darkness, open fire at extremely short range. The RHIB teams, trained for exactly this contingency, immediately return fire and begin withdrawing to the safety of the warships. What happens next is the critical moment. The moment where the pirates' entire worldview collapses, rather than retreating, rather than fleeing the scene as any rational actor might. The pirates do the unthinkable. They pursue the retreating boarding teams, and then, with extraordinary boldness, or extraordinary foolishness, or perhaps both, they open fire on the warships themselves. Rocket-propelled grenades launch from the pirate skiffs. Small arms fire pops across the water. An RPG round strikes USS Cape St. George. A United States guided missile cruiser, 90 to 800 tons of steel and weapon systems, has just been hit by a pirate rocket. The damage is superficial. A scorch mark, a surface scratch on a hull designed to absorb far worse. No American sailor is injured, but the response is immediate. Too close for the big guns, the 5-inch naval cannon, the missile systems. The warships engage with what they have at hand, 150 caliber heavy machine guns. These are not subtle weapons. The M2 Browning .50 caliber machine gun fires 450 to 600 rounds per minute, each round capable of punching through light armor at a mile's distance. Against a 30-foot wooden skiff loaded with fuel, it is not a contest. A 50 caliber tracer round from USS Gonzalez catches the main pirate skiff at exactly the wrong moment, striking a 55-gallon steel fuel drum secured to the deck. The drum explodes. The entire pirate mother vessel, with all its fuel, all its supplies, catches fire. Within minutes, it has burned to the waterline. The two smaller attack skiffs watch their mothership disappear in flames and immediately do the math. Both surrender to USS Cape St. George. The action is over. Elapsed time, minutes. Result, 1 pirate, killed. 12 captured, 5 of them wounded. 1 U.S. warship lightly scratched. 0 American casualties. The first pirate attack on a United States Navy warship in the 21st century ends not with a hostage negotiation or a ransom payment, but with a burning hulk, 12 men in handcuffs, and United States Navy sailors watching the smoke rise from their deck rails.